Some days you think I'm pretty, but some days you think I'm ugly. Some days you love me, but some days you'll hate me. If you think I'm not good enough, you might get rid of me. A father's child, a mother's child, yet no one's son. Who am I? Let's unpack. Hey guys, so welcome everybody to the Shujaa Podcast, where we discuss all matters men and what God says about them. I am your host, KJ Mwangi, a disciple of Christ, a husband and a father, a brother and a son, a mentor and a friend. By the way, for the ladies who are listening, welcome. I acknowledge you guys and I thank you very much for tuning in. Please listen with an open mind, because there's a lot I'm going to say that maybe you might not relate to because you're not men, but hey, open mind. And thank you so much for tuning in. As usual, as is our tradition now, it has become our tradition. Let's open with a word of prayer. Father, we thank you for this opportunity for us to just have a chat again regarding what you say about us as men. I thank you once again for this platform and for the person at the end of this podcast. I pray, dear Lord, that you may meet them at their point of need. Speak to them. I am your instrument. Thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Whew, that feels... First of all, let me tell you something. I started exercising the other day and my body is aching. I'm feeling like I was run over by a truck. Anyway, not that I've ever been run over by a truck, but hey, you get what I mean. So yeah, my body is aching. First, before I forget, you hear that? Let me do that once more. That is the sound of me patting my own back. Let me tell you guys, I'm in episode 2. The journey has begun and we are set to go. So as promised from the last episode, today marks the beginning of the topic that we're going to discuss, called the definition of a man. And I was thinking on what I would do, and I thought the format of an interview would be interesting. It would be good. So I went to search for a guest. And I didn't find one, or at least I didn't find one in time. So the interview format is still going to remain, but hey, we are going to interview me. I'm going to try and interview myself. This is bound to be a journey. So the interview is going to be done in 2 parts. So in this particular episode, I'm going to deal with the first segment where I share my thoughts on what I believe, or where I believe man gets his definition from, and the different types of elements in, at least from my worldview and from my experiences that have led me to where I'm at as far as definition of a man is concerned. So 2 specific things I'm going to deal with in this episode is labels and character. So without much further ado, let's unpack. So what are the thoughts that come to mind when you hear the phrase definition of a man? Or better yet, what defines a man? So the first thought that comes to mind is a man and a male the same thing? Like, can you be male and not a man? And I think for me specifically, the main difference comes with understanding the responsibility that comes with being a man, and also what you do with that responsibility. Because most of the time, I think as a male, you tend to assume just because you have the male reproductive organs, then you qualify to bear the responsibility that comes with that, because of different societal expectations. And for me specifically, that's why responsibility is such a key thing when it comes to the definition. I have to be comfortable with understanding the responsibility that is required of me, and at the same time also doing something about it. you know. And that takes me back to a program I did some time back. It's called Man Enough, and it just deals with redefining what manhood is all about. And it's a program that is offered by Transform Nations, an organization based in Kenya, but it has global reach. And there's the first chapter that talks about the definition of a man, and there's like 5 tenets or 5 pillars of what a definition of a man is: taking initiative, living responsibly, leading sacrificially, loving faithfully, and leaving a legacy. So that's a very, I would say that's a very comprehensive summary of what it means to define what a man is. And the first time I ever heard about the reference of a man, I think I was like 11 or 12, or somewhere around there. And it came from my uncle, and my uncle was trying to prepare me for circumcision, because it was, I think, 2 years out. I got circumcised when I think I was around 14 or something like that. And I think around 2 years before or a year before that, my uncle was trying to prepare me for that. And I think I am the first grandson, I think, on both sides, if I'm not wrong. And my uncle was trying to explain to me how that comes with a lot of responsibility. Being the fact that I'm the first grandson, then being named after my grandfather, he being the leader of the family, the patriarch of the family, and I was named after him. And that really sort of put me next in line to being the leader of the family. And my uncle was trying to explain that to me, how I, as the man of the family, would have so much responsibility. It was up to me to look out for the family and stuff like that. Which reminds me, I think it's Spider-Man 2, where Peter Parker is told by his uncle that, I don't know if it's his uncle or his auntie, I don't remember that movie, it's been so long ago, where he tells him that with great power comes great responsibility. And that's the same thing. I think the essence of being a man is understanding the power that you have and the responsibilities that you have with regards to executing that power. I think that's important. Then when it comes to what defines a man, or better yet, where a man gets his identity, I think I would break it down into like 3 broad categories. I would take labels, character, and roles. So you said labels, character, and roles. That's very interesting. I've never thought of it that way. But please explain what you mean. What do you mean by that? Maybe you can expound. So, okay. Now, so the definition, or rather, the definition of definition is a description of the fundamental characteristic or scope of something, right? And labels, I would visualize or say this as, or I would define them myself as identifying tags. Like this, if you think about the label on, let's say, a box or a smart, not a smart drink, and I have no idea what that is. I meant to say on a soft drink. So the label on a soft drink or any form of drink, they're usually labels that help you identify what that label is, so that you don't end up picking, let's say, paraffin, thinking it's something else, that kind of thing. So when it comes to a man, it would be names, like your name, what you're called. And note I said name, not names. We as Africans, for some weird reason, seem to think we have plural names, or you have many names. You just have a name. All those 3 labels that you are identified with, or 5, or whatever it is, they're your name, like all of them. I don't get it. But hey, so name, titles, professor, doctor, engineer, msanii, artist, or something. Just a title that is going to identify you, reverend, or pastor, or apostle. Those kind of titles that are going to identify you. Some of the older ones that were of very high esteem or high prestige was mwalimu. I remember when I was growing up, when you called a teacher mwalimu, you could see the gleam on their face, and they would like shine. It was such a title of pride. Like, I am the one who imparts knowledge on people and stuff like that. And part of labels, in my opinion, would include achievements and accomplishments. And the reason why I put them under the category of labels is because sometimes people are known by what they do. Like, we all know Diego for what he's done with the javelin. And we all know Usain Bolt because of what he has done on the track, specifically with the 100 and 200 meters. And we all know our very own Mr. Ineos, Eliud Kipchoge, because of what he has done with the marathon. So all through achievements and accomplishments have somewhat given men a label. I remember back in school, when we were in primary school, there was this guy, I think he was called Steve. Steve was like the choppy of the class. He was like the brightest star of them all. And I remember we used to would given him labels, like that guy who's always getting A's, those kind of things. To us, Steve was a summation of all the A's that he would get. Like, that was him, that was him to us. Then the thing about accomplishments and achievements, to me, is like they're moving goalposts, because it's never enough. Let me give you an example. You see, my personal journey as far as family making is concerned started out, obviously, with me being single. And I remember the pressure that was mounted upon me in various quarters, and people would ask, okay, why are you single? You should be having a girlfriend. I mean, in the words of my mother, you're not becoming any younger. And then I went ahead and got a girlfriend. And now the pressure changed. It was, you guys have been dating for so long. What's the plan? Where are you going with this? Not just from my mother or from my friends, but also from my then girlfriend. That was the pressure. Where are we going with this? Women and next steps. I mean, it just happens like that. Then that relationship ended, and the pressure now started again. Like, you're not getting any younger. You need to get into another relationship, and you need this. People seem to know exactly what you need. Then I got into another relationship, and then I got married to this lady. So my current wife. It's not like I'm going to have another one, but my wife. Okay, that makes sense. My wife. So I got married, and after we'd been married, I think for about a year or something, expectations started. Hey, when are you guys getting a kid? You guys have been married for so long. And it's conflicting expectation, because they tell you need to first enjoy your marriage. But at the same time, don't wait too long. You need to get a child. And then, interestingly, even among men, yeah? So while you're single, you can't talk among men, at least among African men. What are you going to say? Utasema nini? Because if you go and start talking, be told, what are you going to tell us? You're such a boy. Kehe, that's boy in Kikuyu. And what are you going to tell us? Then, when you do get married, or rather when you do get a girlfriend and they start seeing that you're serious, you've done those marurashios and whatnots, introductions and whatnots, and then you've gotten married, they see now you are a man. You are responsible for another human being. So now you can come in the congregation of men and at least say something, and we're going to listen to you, You can contribute. Then you start talking and you're like, what are you talking? What can you say? You don't even have children. The pressure has mounted. So my mother kept asking, when are you going to get children? Oh, you shouldn't take so long. Women, biological clock, this, what, all that kind of stuff. Then we got our first child. And that was a journey by itself. By the way, I'll talk about it one day. Invite me again to the show. So we get our firstborn, and that's not enough. The same people who are pressuring you, they're not going to contribute to you bringing up this child. You are going to meet all the costs by yourself. Then I think when my son had gotten to about 1 year old, again it was, hey, when are you getting a second born? This child is going to be lonely. So everything about accomplishments is going to be moving goalposts. Like, it's never going to be enough, not for you, not for others, not for people around you. It's never going to be enough. And that's why, for me, labels define people, especially men, hey, the best form of what you do, defining who you are, hey, President Moi. That's the era I grew up in. That's what I know. Character. So when you think about character, most of the time, when character comes to mind, we are mostly thinking about what are we really like. If you're to ask what's his character like, you're asking what is he really like deep down, like almost like what's your essence or your nature? Are you so it's more generally like a good or a bad. So which one of these two are you? Those are the thoughts that I would get when it comes to character. Let me use God for example. Yeah. You see, God is spirit, which means he's a spiritual being. That means he's invisible and immaterial. But his essence or his nature, his godness, if you might say, which also is part of his identity, is exhibited through his character. Like God is holy, God is merciful, God is gracious, just, faithful, and all these things. That emanates from who he is, his nature, his essence. The fact that God is holy, that is who he is. And the physical embodiment of who God is the person of Jesus Christ. Like that is the physical embodiment. That is God become man. Emmanuel, God with us. That is Jesus Christ. So character is said that it is who you are when only God is looking, or who you are when no one else is looking but God. So when you're in front of people, we tend to get into a lot of pretense. So we show people what we want them to see, and we are very good at that. And as men, we are very good at that. We are prolific at that. But when you get home behind closed doors and you unpack and remove all that pretense, who are you really? Who are you? Then as far as character is concerned, there is beliefs and values. I think beliefs and values contribute a lot when it comes to character, because if you think about it, where do your beliefs and values come from? And I would think with regard to that, I would look at our beliefs and values are informed by faith and learning. So faith would be what you get maybe from home and church. And that involves religion as well. So I'm not talking about religion, but I'm talking about faith. And your learning, meaning you going through the educational system, also gives you a lot of beliefs. You pick up a lot of beliefs along the way as you go through different stages of learning. So your origins of beliefs and values come from those two things, faith and learning. If you think about it, you grew up and your mother told you maybe something like you shouldn't talk back at grown-ups, something like that. So that is what I was told. I grew up knowing that you'd never talk back to adults, and it was my belief silently, like if you talk back to adults, maybe something bad is going to happen. They're going to curse you, or maybe lightning and thunder is going to rain down on you, or hail is going to rain down on you, or stuff like that. But that is what I grew up knowing. Couple that with now religious stuff and faith in God. I would see it in my mother, and I remember hearing it from a very early age. And my mother would tell me, maybe when we were struggling with something, she would always say, have faith in God, God is going to provide. And all through, my mother is the one who first took us to church, because I come from a mixed, when I was growing up, I was an only child. I come from a mixed denomination, if you would call it. My dad is a staunch Catholic, and my mom, well, she started out Anglican, but now she's a staunch Catholic as well. And that's the background I grew up in. So I would go to a Catholic church and I would go to an Anglican church. So all in all, in my home experience, God was a very big part of it. So my beliefs were always centered around Christianity, so to say. And that has really informed my worldview and how I view things and how I perceive beliefs and values. Because it is out of your beliefs that you get your values. And this is what I mean. If I believe that I am God's gift to women, then I will value the women according to my belief. Or the flip side is, if I believe that all women are God's gift to me, then I will value them as that. They are God's gift to me. And I will not treat them anyhow. I'll just treat them the way I want, because they are meant to serve me, So I have a friend. She's way older than me. And she's very successful, very, very successful. She was born rich, and she's made it in life. And I remember there was a time we had gone for a conference, and we were coming out of the conference, and she had given me a lift in her big car. And we started talking, and a thought came to mind, and I asked her, like, I look at you and I aspire to be you. Like, wherever it is that you're in life, that is where I aspire to be. But I have interacted with you, and in my opinion, you're very humble. Like, regardless of how much money you have, you're very humble. So how is it that you have maintained that humility? Like, how is it that you're still able to be that humble regardless of all the money that you have? Because from what I've seen, when people get money, even if it's small money, all of a sudden they become proud, they become arrogant, they become all these things. And her response was this: money does not add anything that wasn't already there. It just reveals it. So if you are that kind of a person, that money is going to reveal that about you. So that goes back to the character. Who are you really on the inside? And that money just reveals it. And she said the thing that has grounded her is her belief system, what she believes, and her belief system sort of dictated how she was going to interact with her achievements and how she was going to interact with the money that she made. So in a sense, she was telling me, because of her belief system, the money that she makes was not going to govern her life, but she was going to govern it. So in a sense, money worked for her. She did not work for money. I think I was like a 23-year-old young man with dreams and aspirations of being filthy rich. That statement right there that she told me redefined everything about beliefs and values. And she told me that the values that she had picked up from her parents, she had owned them. And those are the ones that she had taught to her kids. And those are the ones that have kept her grounded, in that when all these winds of change that money brings come up, she's grounded in what her belief system is. And she has not changed. So enough, despite the fact that she can get what she wants, she has gotten what she needs. That is such an interesting thing to me. So the other thing I think men get their definitions from is societal roles. And when it comes to societal roles, in my mind, I don't think there is any two roles of men that is as pronounced or elevated, if you might call it, as provider and protector. Hey, let me tell you, when I was growing up, that is all I knew. I knew that men are meant to provide and men are meant to protect. So wherever I was and there were women, it was up to me to protect them. That's just how I grew up, and I got that from my mom. And she would always tell me or push me towards treating others as you would want them to treat you. And she would always emphasize about me protecting my siblings, protecting my aunties, and stuff like that. And that's how I grew up. So then provision, I saw my dad providing. Like, let me tell you, provision is one thing that I have learned from my dad. My dad is the paramount provider. We have never lacked anything. And when I was young, I never used to understand the extent towards which he went to ensure that we got whatever it is that we needed. And at times, we even got what it is that we wanted. Like, he is the ultimate provider. So later in life, now I came to realize that, there is a whole lot more that is expected of a man, especially by our, I don't want to call it modern day women, but there is a lot more expectations of men in terms of society, apart from just provision and protection. There is a whole lot more. There is emotional support. There is friend. There is warrior. There is king. There is all these other things that is expected of men. And I really don't think it was something that is new. It's just that it's never been laid upon much emphasis, maybe up to until now. Whoa, great conversations here. And that brings us to a close of part 1. It's my hope and prayer that this will impact you in so many different ways. And if you please have a story to share, even if it's just a review, would like to hear what you have to say. Our social media handle is @Shujaa Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I would love to hear what you guys think. So as usual, it has become a custom here. It's time for our benediction, and our benediction today comes from Numbers, the book of Numbers, chapter 6, from verses 24 all the way to 26. And this is what it says. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Catch you guys in the next one.